The guards were shocked by what they saw. Likewise with Kwon, he looked shocked by that. Because Ju-yeon's anger could no longer be contained, he immediately attacked his father. His father had gone too far for him, even though it was all just nonsense. He has decided to fight his father, and will continue to take revenge if his father still rises. A strong blow launched from Ju-yeon's right hand will immediately hit Gangryong. However, suddenly Ju-yeon's movements were stopped by someone unknown. He also called Ju-yeon young master. When he grabbed Ju-yeon's head, not long after, he direct threw Ju-yeon to the floor hard. The guards who saw the incident could only remain silent and shocked. For the man, this was his job, and just doing his duty. Carrying out duties, to serve his boss. But Ju-yeon is still trying to get up from that situation. This man was a little surprised because he could still try to get up in a situation like this. This man is the commander of the Heavenly Dragon. He didn't think that Ju-yeon could still try to get up by relying on his legs. His father immediately spoke to him. That Ju-yeon must open his eyes wide and look around. There are many members of the Heavenly Dragons around Ju-yeon, and for him it is impossible for Ju-yeon to reach his father. Rash action only messed things up. He also told Ju-yeon that the only way to defeat him was to control this juvenile prison. He who heard this could only exude anger without being able to do anything. His father had high hopes for him, for the next meet in the future. He and the Heavenly Dragon members left there at the same time. Ju-yeon's body received a lot of damage, as a result of everything that happened, and again he couldn't do anything. He could only vent his frustration without being able to do anything. Returning to the woodworking room, several prisoners were seen working on something. Their Jayam is using his craft to make objects. An instructor told him to rest, because he had already fulfilled today's production quota. The other prisoners admit that Jayam's crafting skills are very good, and they suspect that Jayam used the hammer when beating his bullies. They are mocking Jayam because, defeating his enemy using weapons. Suddenly someone came to the instruction because the work was finished. He put the results of his work on the shelf. Suddenly he heard a loud sound of something falling. It turns out the storage box fell to the floor. Herd instructor was scolding because someone had knocked over the toolbox. When Jayam saw the nails, he seemed to remember something. Suddenly he is approached by another prisoner, and it seems like the prisoner knows Jayam. Apparently he was from middle school when they graduated, and the prisoner's name was Yoon. Gunmin Yoon saw Jayam on the news and ended up here, that's why they meet again. Yoon tells him whether Jayam still remembers him? Of course he still remembers Yoon. He looks happy about it, so there's something Young has been wanting to know from Jayam. About the news when Jayam defeat the 7 people. Something that makes him curious to this day, whether the Jayam defeat those 7 people? He just didn't believe it, that Ma Jayam Taecho Middle School did that. Even though when he was a child, Jayam was an exemplary student. Finally, an instructor stopped their conversation and told them to return to their respective cells. Finally, Yoon returned to his cell and looked forward to the next meeting. Jayam immediately tidied up his craft equipment. But he felt pain around his hand. It turned out that he was holding the wood and nails together, making his hands bleed. The cold of snow at night arrived. It can be seen that they are carrying out their activities as usual. But their Ju-yeon was still gloomy while thinking about something. Thinking what his father said, about having to take control of the juvenile prison to defeat him. Ju-yeon, who has a revenge against his own father Gangryong, will do anything to defeat him. But for that, he had to do the first step. Ju-yeon looked at the situation and conditions in this cell. The condition of the prisoners after being left by the room leader of this cell. He seemed to be planning something. Suddenly there were guards on patrol, the prisoners immediately quieted down. Ju-yeon looks like he's about to start taking action. He immediately asked something to the guard who was on patrol. They all seemed surprised by Ju-yeon's action of asking the guard something. That it's not a big problem. He just asked the guard to deliver him pizza. They seemed confused by Ju-yeon's words, that this was a prison. But the guard instead asked him to come out. Seen, he was eating the pizza with gusto. Everyone in the room was seen eating pizza, they enjoyed it because it had been a long time since they had such a delicious meal. They all thanked to Ju-young. He remembered this again, because Ju-young was the son of Gangreon, an influential person in this prison, so Ju-young would get special treatment. He needs to test the limits of what he allowed to do in prison. They were busy eating the pizza, while thinking about the right name for Mr. Ju-young, while listening to their chatter about his father who was a congressman. But here he has a goal, that he will use anything for revenge. Despite the fact that he is the son of an influential person in this prison, Gangreon. They started talking about Jayam. That their Jayam didn't eat pizza, and they thought that today Jayam was very strange. He's different from his usual day. Jayam seems to be thinking about something, because of the incident when he met a prisoner who knew him a long time ago. Morning arrived, the prisoners began to carry out their usual routine. It looks like Ju-young and Jayam are involved in the same work project. They do a good job without saying anything. Suddenly someone's voice was heard. There is a prisoner who accidentally drops equipment on Jayam. As a result, many nails fell towards Jayam who was working. He also stopped working because of that. It turned out the prisoner was the same person as yesterday, who dropped the equipment. Seeing what Yoon did intentionally, he looks angry about it. Actually, what is Yoon trying to do to Jayam? It seems like another prisoner has approached Jayam, and it's because of Yoon's recommendation. 3 large people blocked Jayam. It seems like this prisoner wants to make Jayam his underling. They talked about rumors of a bully in the neighborhood which turned out to be just a lie. Then Yoon also provoked these words. That since childhood Jayam and Yoon remember their beautiful moments. He keeps pushing about his childhood memories to Jayam, looking like Yoon wants to trigger something out of him. Suddenly Yoon smacked Jayam's head, the right one has nails in front of it. Nails that seem to have bad memories. Bad memories from school. The moment when he was bullied by school students. Jayam, who in the past at school was bullied. Yoon there was also one of the students who bullied him. Incident taking place in the room, the sound of which cannot even be heard. Jayam at that time could only cry and beg to be let go. Yoon doesn't want to let Jayam go easily. Because something fun is about to start. He starts playing a game, that in the box is Jayam, and there Yoon will hammer nails into the box. Inside he could only be silent and afraid of it. Yoon seemed to be enjoying the game, he continued to hammer the nails into the box. Because of that, Yoon here ensures that Jayam will definitely remember this forever. All of them there started to disturb the comfort of work, and once again bully Jayam. They continue to underestimate Jayam, because the news circulating about him being in prison is just nonsense. He also started carrying several nails in his hands. As if Yoon couldn't believe that Jayam had defeated 7 people. Then suddenly there was a hand that blocked Yoon's plan. Those who saw it were shocked. The act that Yoon doing was thwarted by someone. Ju-young was also surprised by that. It turns out that Jayam himself failed the action, and here he will show Yoon how to beat someone.